Hi everyone. In this video, I'm going to talk about the Uncanny LearnDash Groups plugin, which has been out for almost 6 months now, but we never really had an introductory video that walks through the complete steps for setting it up and how to get everything configured. So this video is going to focus on both what the plugin is all about, as well as how to actually set it up in your environment and make it work efficiently for you. So just to recap quickly, the LearnDash Groups plugin that we have really focuses on 3 areas. There's front-end management for LearnDash Groups, where group leaders can go in and manage the users in there and see where people are within that, invite users, and perform basic user management functions. There's also reporting for group leaders, so we make available a course progress report, as well as a quiz report where you can see detailed statistics for quiz submissions from users in the groups. And there's also an e-commerce component for the plugin where you're actually able to sell access to LearnDash groups, both groups where the course list is fixed, as well as groups where group leaders can choose whatever courses and however many seats they want in the group and create the products themselves. There are some changes if you're watching this for the first time or are an existing user for groups with the 2.0 release, which does add support for subscriptions and also completely changes a lot of the user experience with the plugin. So that's why we wanted to cover a lot of that in this screencast. So just to get started, I'm going to walk through some of the key sections, especially the user experience first. So if you are new to the plugin, you have a sense of what it can do and how your group leaders would interact with it and how it might add value. And then later on in the screencast, I'll get into how to actually set things up behind the scenes, how to build the right kind of workflows, those kinds of things. So let's start off first then with some of the basic functions. If you're not using e-commerce, so what's common for everyone, which is the group management and the reporting. And right now I am signed in as a group leader and I am responsible for 2 groups. So I've been assigned as a group leader for these 2 groups. And this is one of the front end pages that the Groups plugin makes available. So let's talk through this in a bit more detail then. So from this page, which group leaders can get to, and only group leaders can, so that's an important point with the plugin. It's not for administrators, it's not for the regular learners. They can go in here and see the groups that they're managing. And for any of those groups, they can see which courses are assigned, which users are assigned, which group leaders are assigned to the group, and also reporting information for those groups. So it's quite a lot of information, and they really do just need this one page where they can manage everything. So let me talk through the sections in a bit more detail so you can understand what group leaders are actually doing with this plugin and why it's valuable for your group leaders. So going from the top then, this is where courses are assigned, and we can get access directly to those courses if group leaders have been assigned as users as well. So we can click into the courses. If the group was purchased, then and if it's part of a flexible group product, which I'll cover a bit later, then the group leaders can also add additional courses. So whenever they want to, if they set up a group originally and it was through e-commerce, so they made a transaction, they made that purchase, and they decide later on, okay, for the however many licenses I bought, I want to give additional users access. The group leaders can click that button and complete a purchase where they would be able to buy additional courses for all the students in their group. Down here, they're able to add seats. Again, if they originally purchased it as part of an e-commerce transaction, and we only do support WooCommerce, so that's a consideration there. So as part of a WooCommerce transaction, if they set the group up that way, then they can add additional seats at any time. So I'll add a couple of notes there. The Groups plugin that we created does have constraints with LearnDash itself. So we are setting up groups, just regular LearnDash groups, and building on them, which means that everybody in a group shares access to all of these courses. When you're setting up a group, the way LearnDash Group works, or LearnDash Groups work, is that each group, if courses are added to that group, everyone in that group gets access to those courses. So there is no way to make exceptions because that does come up a fair bit with support for the plugin. You cannot have some users in a group accessing some of the courses only and other users accessing other courses. If people are in the same group and courses are assigned to that group, then everyone in that group, if they're a learner, is assigned access to those courses. If exceptions need to be made, then users either need to be enrolled individually or an additional group needs to be set up. Because once courses are added here, then everyone in this list gets access to those courses. So the next question then with the group management page might be, well, I mentioned the e-commerce transactions. How is it different? Like, what are the exceptions there? And the exceptions happen when groups are set up by an administrator. So when that happens, the add courses button and the add seats buttons do not exist. Because in those scenarios, if an administrator set up the group, then the expectation is that an administrator will be managing the group. And if there's no e-commerce in setting that up, then we have no product in WooCommerce that we can modify with additional courses and additional seats. So that is why those scenarios are not supported. Once it's created by an administrator, the group leaders are presumed not to be able to have that control over seats and courses because, again, it's not tied to a pricing model then. So we just restrict it so that they can't do it. And then I'll talk more about the e-commerce system later, and then it'll be more clear kind of why we have restrictions for different product types and how that works. Anyway, with the plugin, going down to this next section, so we're going to show, how many seats are remaining, because when people are buying the groups or they have access to these groups, there are a limited number of seats assigned to the group. That's how the plugin works, so that we can control how many users are in there and it can't be exploited. And that's one of the key parts of the plugin for organizations to manage themselves. We want to make sure that they do have limits in terms of how many users they can add and that the administrator is able to oversee that. And again, so that organizations can't exploit it and group leaders can't exploit it by giving anyone they want access. There's always a limited number of seats or licenses or whatever you want to call them. And certainly these labels like this can be changed with the plugin. All right, so if there were seats available, then I would see buttons here for adding users, and the plugin supports adding users directly so that they get notified of their new user access information. It supports adding existing users so that somebody already exists in the system and they'll just get notified they're part of this group now. It also supports registration by enrollment key. So that's basically a code users can enter. And that key allows them to enter it on a registration form, and when they do register or redeem it in a standalone environment, they're added to the group automatically. They don't have to do anything else. And that's really helpful in situations when you don't know the person's email address or maybe it's changed or something, and they can then choose whatever information they want to register with. So you don't have to necessarily know everyone's email address to set them up. You can just download keys and then invite them that way. So you can see this person was invited, but they haven't started yet, so they could potentially be removed. So over here we have the removal option that shows up when I check that off. The removal only works though when someone hasn't yet started anything. So once they start it, then we assume, okay, they've already got access to it. They shouldn't be removed at this point, so we don't allow that. That's why there's no checkbox here. So there is some control over the users there, both the regular learners and the group leaders. So anyone in this list, in case you're not too familiar with LearnDash and how groups work, anyone in this list can see the reporting for the group and also manage who appears in this list, so who gets access to the courses under this group. And then everyone up here in the enrolled users section, they get access to the courses that are defined here, and these are the people that show up in the progress report and quiz report. All right, so there are a couple of key front-end pages that are set up when the plugin is installed. This is one of them. Another one is the progress report, so let's take a look at that really quickly. And this is a test environment. You'll notice that the theme is extremely basic because we're just using a default theme. It's really just intended to show what the plugin would look like in a generic theme or or how it might look in your theme. So there is a sidebar here that we wouldn't normally include if we're actually building this on a client site. But again, it's just showing that the plugin can work if the page layout is constrained and you're trying to work with a sidebar or some other maybe constrained template. So within the course report, I don't think there are results here, but let's pull up a list anyway. So we're going to choose the group that we're looking at. And again, if the user is in multiple groups, then they'd see a drop-down list with multiple groups in it. And then for the group, it will show their associated courses. And then once you make that selection, then you can see where people are within that course. So there's a search tool available, and within that, you can see their records. So if the user had started this course, they're partway through it, then it would show % complete. And if they had completed it, then the date completed would show up here. And then there is also a report for the quizzes. And going into that, again, you're drilling down into the group, then you're drilling down into the specific quiz, whatever it might be. And then within that, if there were results, which I don't have in this demo, then they would show up here. The name of the user, the score they earned, the detailed report. Now that's one that's pretty interesting. That exposes the LearnDash detailed statistics report for the user if statistics are on for the quiz. Then the group leader can actually see the answers that a user selected, how long it took them to answer a question, and a lot more detailed information about the quiz itself. And then if the quiz was submitted and there was a record here, it would show the date that it was submitted. So a lot of options there. This one also includes CSV export because there could presumably be quite a bit of data. So those are 3 pages that are created automatically when the plugin is installed. And there are some additional pages too. One of them is the By Courses page. So if the plugin detects that WooCommerce is on the site when it's installed, and if you do plan to use e-commerce, it is highly recommended that you set WooCommerce up first, make sure that it is active before activating this plugin. Because if it doesn't detect WooCommerce and you end up using WooCommerce later, you will have to set up the page for course purchases. Just because we're not going to set up a page automatically if you don't use it and if we don't think you're using e-commerce. All of these pages are really simple to set up though. They're simply individual shortcodes. So if you want to make them different pages or you want to have multiple copies of these pages, you can just drop the shortcodes in. They're all in the knowledge base, and then you'll be able to set up these pages wherever you want, or set up multiple copies again. So although in the back end, it only allows you to choose one page for each of the key pages that it's looking for. So the By Courses page, the group management page, this one, the progress report, and the quiz report. So there are options for those. So this is effectively where group leaders are going to be spending a lot of their time. To get to this page is something that you will have to set up. It's not something that is added by default because we're not going to modify your menus or other behaviors. So this one I know can cause some confusion when people are setting this up on their site. What's an easy way to get group leaders to this page, but make sure only group leaders are getting to this page? So there are a couple ways of doing that. Certainly one option is with a login redirect. So if a group leader signs in, then maybe you want to take them directly to this page if this is where they're spending most of their time and why they're signing into the site in the first place. So if you're doing something like that, you might want to take a look at a plugin like Peter's Login Redirect, which does allow role-based redirects so that you can target only group leaders and make sure that when they sign in, so anyone with that role, that they are directed to this page. Another option too is adding it to a menu. But of course, you don't want to direct people here that don't have access to this page. So an option there is a plugin like Nav Menu Roles, which depending on your theme, because some themes unfortunately do not support it and have very difficult menus that are customized that make things rather unpleasant. But if you're using a theme that can support Nav Menu Roles, then it's a really easy way to add conditional menu entries based on role, the user's role. So I know in our toolkit, we do have a module for menu item visibility. That is not role-based though. So if you're trying to do something that's role-based just for group leaders, make sure you're disabling our menu item visibility and instead using a plugin like Nav Menu Roles, which will give you more control over conditional items that are role-based, like this. And if you want to link to the progress report, the quiz report, those kinds of things, then those solutions can help a great deal. Just before I go into the back end, I will show you the build license page, and I'll get more into the WooCommerce side of things later on, but this at least covers what users see in the front end and how they set these things up. So usually on sites that are using the LearnDash Groups plugin that we have, there are potentially 3 ways of buying course access. There are individual course sales. There are group sales where people are buying access to a specific course or a fixed set of courses. We call that, and I'll get into it later, we call that a group license product. So basically they're buying a group license and it's a product that's fixed. And there's the third option, which is users setting up their own groups with whatever courses they want and anyway, whatever details they want. So this is that 4th page that's set up automatically if WooCommerce is detected. And again, this is a page that you would have to give users access to. It has to be intuitive. So depending on how we're setting things up, usually if there's a course landing page, there might be 3 calls to action, so 3 different buttons, giving users a clear indication of how to purchase each of the 3 item types. Or it could really be anything. You can use the WooCommerce product page for the other 2 options. This one's just a little different, so that's why we kind of look at other options. And why we might take them directly to this page using a call to action. So this page, though, this allows them to choose whatever products or courses they want to purchase, and it's going to update dynamically and allow them to basically create their own product and create their own group that delivers exactly what they need instead of you defining products for them. So on this page, users are just going to set up a name for the group. They will define how many seats, and obviously this text is bad. It's mixed case and it's not what everyone would use. This is an example of using a custom label for the seats, so I'll show that in the back end. But this is just showing how you can call this whatever you want, and in this case it's called student accounts. So maybe I'll make this, we want 50 seats for this group, and within that then maybe we want access to this course and this course and this course. So it's going to update all those things, and there's a bulk discount if it applies there, so you can see the discount there and a total. And then we can click on Add to Cart, and that's going to go through the normal WooCommerce purchase experience. But the actual selection, because WooCommerce doesn't allow these types of things like setting the name and the variable course selections, we did set it up on its own page so that we can handle things like this automatically. And then also support adding new courses and adding new seats by group leaders later on after they've made the initial purchase. So that's why it's kind of a different user experience and why we have to take people to a different page. All right, so that basically covers some of the key things in the front end and the user experience for managing groups and also the initial purchase, at least for the flexible group options. And now let's switch to the back end so that I can walk through how things work for administrators in terms of setting things up, controlling emails, providing oversight of the groups, overriding settings, and setting up some of the e-commerce behaviors. So let's switch now to an administrator account. All right, so I'm signed in as an administrator now, and I'm looking at the settings page for Uncanny LearnDash groups. And when you first install the plugin, it's probably a good idea to take a look at how things are set up here and make any changes that you need to. It's also where you're going to find the wizard for creating new groups, and I'll talk through that one in just a second, but let's start with some of the key settings that you'll want to manage on install first. So the very first one is the text that you want to use. So when I was just showing the student accounts text on that by courses page, this is where it's coming from. So it could be seats instead. And up here, maybe we want seat, and I believe that's the default. So that's where you can change the label. We do need something consistent and global, but I know a lot of people use different things on different sites, so that's why it's flexible there. So this next one is important because we have a lot of users needing either option. Either when group leaders make the purchase, then they're assigned as a student to the group as well, so they have access to the courses. Or we have it so that they only get reporting access and they don't take up a seat, and they don't get course access at all. Whatever you choose is fine. Just make sure you're aware of this checkbox because it seems like we have a pretty even mix, like potentially 50% and 50% of sites that need one option versus the other. So have a look at that one and make sure it's right for your site. And then there's another option here about, if you are using other plugins, there's an option here to set things up as regular WooCommerce products. So for each of the courses that are purchased, so that you can trigger things with other emails. Because normally what's going to happen is that if somebody creates their own group product, the product only gets created at checkout. And it wouldn't trigger some of these other things because it's its own single independent product. So that one's a little confusing, but we've had a lot of people that do depend on third-party plugins or integrations that were not working properly with the flexible group option, because it was only creating the single product when the transaction was completed. So then there wasn't an opportunity to define behaviors for those third-party integrations. So anyway, another key field if you're using those types of plugins. All right, down here is where we have the options for overriding where the key pages are set up. So the group management page, the group report page, and the quiz page. So you can define these here. It's just going to be a drop-down list of all the pages in your system. You'll notice that the one for buy courses is not here because, again, you can just drop that shortcode in any page. These ones are important and have to be defined here because they are linked together. There are the buttons for the progress report and the quiz report, so that's why they have to be defined so we know where to send people. Now, in the tables on the group management page and the report pages, the styles can be overridden here by changing colors. So if you want to make any changes, this is where you do it. You don't have to worry about too much CSS, hopefully none at all in version 2 of the plugin. Now, down here is if you are already using LearnDash groups on your existing site and want to allow group leaders in those groups to be able to take advantage of the new features in the group management page and the reports, then the groups have to be upgraded because we do make some modifications to the groups to set things like seat number. And so to be able to do that kind of thing, then we do have to make some small changes to the groups to allow them to work with the plugin. So if you have them and you want to give the group leaders that kind of access and the new features, then you will have to update the groups. Then down here and for the remainder of the page, we have all kinds of email settings. So first you can control who the emails are from. So that's set there. And then we have a number of different types of emails. So the first option here, if someone is sent a redemption code so that they can register themselves, this is the email that goes out. You can see there are some variables here. You can set the subject to anything you want. You've got a WordPress editor here where you can put in whatever you want that will be emailed out to the user. The second one is if the user is invited, so they have been added to the group, they're a new user, then you can give them all of their information in this email. That's what they'll be sent instead. Next one is they are an existing user, so they have an account, the email matches when they were added as an existing user, then they will receive this email instead. So it's not going to send something like the password because that doesn't exist. If they're an existing user, well, I mean, it does exist, but we wouldn't know what it is, and we're not going to send it a hashed password. So we can't send that in the email, and instead it's just going to confirm, okay, you have access to this group now. If it's a new group leader being added, then this email goes out and welcomes them to the site. And if it's an existing group leader, then we send out this email. So a lot of combinations of emails. Make sure you review them all, assuming that you're using all of the email types. And you can customize them. And again, you can use all these variables that are here to really personalize the email that's going out and make sure they have all the information that they need. If it is a new user, so they don't have an existing WordPress account, we do strongly recommend that you either include the password or send them a link instead to a password reset page where they can set their own password. So those should be set before you start using the groups plugin and making it available to the group leaders, both with new groups that you set up as well as through the purchase experience. Now let's talk about the group creation wizard. So in here, there are potentially a lot of situations where you're using groups without e-commerce. It's very common. You do not need WooCommerce to use the plugin. It can be used just for reporting, or it can be used as a way to more easily create groups. So this interface is if a group is not created through a transaction and you just need a simple group created with a new group leader and a managed number of seats and group access, course access for people in that group, then you can go to this page, and instead of multiple steps, so normally with LearnDash, you would have to go through quite a lot of steps to set something like this up. First, you would have to create the LearnDash group, and then you would assign courses to it. And then you would go in and you would create a new user and invite the user. And then once you create that user, then you would edit the user immediately and assign that user as a group leader for whatever group you've set up previously. And then you would have to notify them so that they now understand how to get on the site. So it can take quite a few steps and is a bit confusing, and this just simplifies it if you're setting up groups this way. So if you're not using e-commerce, then this provides a really easy option if you need administrator managed groups. And again, I talked a bit about before, in the front end, groups that are set up this way cannot add additional courses and additional seats. If an administrator needs to do that, then they can go into the list of LearnDash groups, and by editing that, so if I take a look at one of these test ones that were set up, then I can go in here and I can see, okay, how many seats, and this can be overridden, so this is a writable value for administrators, and then remaining seats will show here. And that one can't be modified because it's dependent on how many users are in that particular group. And if any group leaders need to be changed, like anything in here, groups or courses need to be added, then administrators have access to do that, just as they would normally with LearnDash. So the thing that that's new behavior based on the plugin is this seat management. All right, so that is a key piece of the backend. And then the last setting that I'm going to talk about in the groups menu is going to be bulk discounts. So if you are using e-commerce transactions to allow people to buy and set up their own groups, you can turn on and off bulk discounts so that if users buy a certain number of seats or licenses, you can give them a discount based on the quantity of their purchase, so how many seats. So that is set here. These are the thresholds, so you can set whatever you want. There can be as many thresholds as you need, and it can be then a discount depending on that number. So just set those up here, save the bulk discounts. Anything set here only applies to the group products. So I'll talk more about it again, but there are a couple product types. The ones that it gives discounts to are the group license product, as well as the products that are created flexibly, the ones from the Buy Courses page. So it gives discounts to those, but not anything else. So if people are buying other products on the site, but not this type of product, then the bulk discount would not apply. So that really covers the settings that you would need to configure when you install the plugin. And that's really as much as you need to know to get started, unless you are also setting up e-commerce, which I will talk about next. Just before I do, though, one quick note. The way the plugin works is that it's heavily dependent on roles. So if people make a purchase and they're buying and setting up a group, they're added as a group leader. If they are an existing user, I'll just mention because I know there's sometimes some confusion here, then it would add the group leader role. It's not going to remove any roles they might already have because that would be very risky. But a consideration there is that if you're updating users from WP admin, so you're updating from the profile page, there can only be one role selection by default in WordPress. So a good idea there is if you do have a plugin installed that does allow you to choose multiple roles, then you can make sure that you're not overwriting anything or that you have the right role selection on that page if you're updating something. So just something to be aware of. And now I'll go into the e-commerce discussion. All right, so once again, the Uncanny LearnDash Groups product is dependent on WooCommerce for transactions, any kind of e-commerce transactions. And to make that work, there are really three product types, well actually no, four product types that I want to talk about in this screencast. So let's go ahead and add a new product, and then I can talk through each of those and when you would use them and why they're important. So earlier on in the video too, I talked about the possibility of potentially having three purchase workflows, one for users buying a course for themselves, one for buying one or more courses for a group where it's a fixed list of courses, either an individual one or several that the administrator has defined. And then the third one is the flexible group product where they can choose any number of seats and any courses they want. Now, if you are already using WooCommerce and LearnDash together, then there's probably a good chance you're using the LearnDash WooCommerce integration that's provided by LearnDash itself. And it's completely fine to keep using that. It's not going to conflict with the Uncanny LearnDash Groups plugin. And when I'm setting things up on client sites, that's normally how I would set up individual course sales. So just as before, you can use this course product and you can use that to map to individual courses. Just a note there, just before I do that, I would probably make sure that it's sold individually, and then I can switch back to the course product because again, we're selling to individual users with this. So it's probably just the one course that I'm going to select here, and then I can choose the price, and it's exactly how you would set it up or how you're used to setting up with your existing LearnDash products, your course products in WooCommerce. So that's completely the same. However you handle it now, you can keep doing that and not worry about it. The other product types, we add two with the Uncanny LearnDash Groups plugin. The first one is the group course product type. And this is where, unfortunately, things do get a little bit confusing. So I'll walk through it and try to provide examples where possible, and hopefully at the end it kind of makes sense. We really do need to worry only about these two products, though, when selling to groups, the group course product and the group license product. The group course product comes first. And what this is it's basically like the course product with LearnDash and WooCommerce, but it's allowing a course to be sold as a group. And basically what this is doing is for a specific group, you can see here, or for a specific course, we are defining a price for that course when purchased as part of a group. So you'll go into the courses tab and you will choose whatever course you want to map this to, and you will set a price. So the price goes there, and the rest is how you would normally do it. So you can set up a product name here. Normally, we would not set up product pages for these. So typically, in a typical site, we would just leave the body and the short description empty because we're not generally using them. Same with the product image and things like that. Again, there's flexibility. You can do it how it best works for you, but I'm going to outline what we would kind of recommend and normally do ourselves, and hopefully that will help and give you some ideas. So normally it's just we're putting a title on here, so I'm just going to say this is, and I forgot which course I selected. Let's use Coaching Basics. All right, let me spell properly. So I'm going to set that up, and again, I've got the price for it, and that's really all I need. And setting up that product all we're doing now is we're just saying, okay, somebody can buy this course as part of a group purchase. And by setting up that first product, that course product, it's already automatically added it to this Buy Courses page. So again, I called it Coaching Basics Screencast Product. And if I go back here, I'm going to see Coaching Basics Screencast Product. So that's how that gets added. So that's it. If you're only selling like groups through this flexible Buy Courses page, you only need that product type because this is going to add it to the group. The second product type that I mentioned, the group license, that's only needed if you're selling group access to specific courses or a set number of courses. So that's when users can't control that. So again, if you're just using this page, you want users to create their own groups, you just need that product. But so this group course product, and you need to set one up. So one of these products up for every course you're going to sell as part of group access. So when you're selling groups, if you want a course included, there has to be a group course product for it. All right, so the next product type is what you need if you're selling group access to a specific course. So not using the Buy Courses page. And this is one, actually I'm going to change one setting here. I probably don't want then this to show up in anything. So I'm just going to hide that from the catalog, and then I don't have to worry if I'm following this model of just using the Buy Courses page or I'm using the licensed products, it's not going to show up in the store. And again, since I'm not putting anything in the body of the short description, I don't want it showing up anyway. All right, so we took care of the Buy Courses page, and now we set things up so that we can use the licensed product. And what that one does is, let me do a screencast license product. I'm going to call it that, and I'm going to scroll down here. This one I probably do want an actual description for. I probably do want an image for it and a short description and all the things you would normally have in a product page that you would use in WooCommerce and if it's going to show up in the store. A key thing there too is with the licensed product, when you're sending people to the product page, that step is important because we have to make sure they're setting the quantity. And this is how you do it. So with the individual product, like if you're selling individual access only right now to courses, then you might use the Take This Course button that LearnDash includes in the course page, and setting a button URL on that to go straight to checkout with an add to cart query string for WooCommerce, which takes them right to checkout and allows them to purchase the product immediately. But you don't want to do that with the group purchases because you need to give users an opportunity to choose how many seats or licenses they're buying. So that's why the use of the product page is pretty important. You could use the cart page instead, but the key thing is you have to get them somewhere where they can choose quantity and where it's going to be obvious. And we want to make it as obvious as possible that they need to choose a number of seats. All right, so now we are going to set up that licensed product. So we're going to do that, and then once we choose that, you can see there's no opportunity here to set the price because the price is derived from the associated course products. So this list here, it says linked courses, but these are the course products that you set up previously. So set up all your course products first. Those allow the purchase of those courses as part of a group product. All right, I know it's kind of confusing. Anyway, set up the course products first, set up the prices there, and then here is where you're choosing which course products are part of this license product. So again, people buy this, and this is what creates the group and gives them access to specific courses. And this is where you define which courses. So in this case, I'm going to say, okay, buying this product creates the group, sets it up, and gives that group access to this course product. In this case, it's Coaching Basics is the course. So the $65 I set up for that other product, that gets pulled down here. And if you have multiple courses in here, that's where the price for this comes from. So the price of this product is calculated based on the number of seats and the price of those seats for each of the courses that's selected here. So in this case, I'm just going to make it the single course, and that's pretty typical. So I'm just going to make it the one course, and that's really all you need. And you're going to want all your other information. The short description is typically a good place to place instructions about, make sure you choose the quantity of seats that you want for this group using the quantity selection below. So then people get to this product page. Actually, let's put some instructions on there. And it's going to look ugly because it's a default theme, but I'm just going to put some text in there. So I'm going to say choose the number of seats to add to this group. Let's just do that. It's going to look terrible, but let's publish anyway so you can see how that works. And it just saved a draft on me. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to publish it now. And now I will go out here, and you can see this. Obviously, I have no featured image and I have no body text. But here again is where you can make that selection for the number of seats to add to this group, and it's showing you the price per student here. All right, so now on the cart page, I have some other things in here, but you can only have one licensed product. So it's a little confusing with all of the ones here, so I'm just going to clean that up a bit. And again, it looks bad because it's the default theme. Anyway, this one stands out at the bottom, so this is the one that I just created, 8 seats for it, and I can go ahead and check it if I want to. So let's jump back though, because I did say there were 4 product types, and the 4th one then you could potentially use is a subscription product. So let me go ahead and add one of those quickly, just so you can again see the other variation with setting these things up. So this is a screencast course subscription product. And here the difference is this is dependent on having the WooCommerce subscription plugin installed. So to use this, you must have the subscription plugin installed, and then it adds this tab here where again you can choose the number of courses. So think of it a lot like the group license product, with the difference being that it's set up as a subscription. So in this case, you would have to define the price. Because it's going to be based on period, so you have to define the price and the period. And again, it's pretty straightforward because you're selecting the specific courses. So you should set it up this way using these course products. And anyway, so you can set the exact terms of the subscription here, and that will work. And just to note, when you're setting this kind of product up, when it's going to be a subscription, there will not be an option in the group management page for users to be able to add seats or add courses, because with subscriptions we can't modify the products and the recurring payment schedule to make changes based on seats and courses. We can't change what people are billed dynamically like that. We might be able to in future, but at the time of this screencast, that's simply not possible. All right, so the very last step, again, I was going to talk a bit about the user experience and how you set things up in terms of workflow in the front end. I have shown some of those examples already. The key thing though is that let's talk through the 4 of them. So we've got the individual course purchase. You can just do what you're doing now. Maybe you want to set up I'd mentioned the button on the course page for using the Take This Course button to direct people directly to checkout. So if I just go into edit that, let me pull that up really quickly. Then when you've got a closed course, it's got this custom button URL. So you can put your URL in here, and then you can just, whatever the site is, you can just make it checkout/add to cart. Sorry, I missed that, equals, and then whatever the product ID is. So when you go to your list of products, it'll show the ID there. When you hover over it, it's going to be a number. Or if you're giving them the option of different workflows here, then what you might do up here then in your editor is add buttons for the different options. So one hyperlink would be probably this one, which is for the individual course purchase. The next one with the example of the group license product. So that's where you're selling access to a specific course or set of courses for a group. In that case, you probably want to take them to the product page. So whatever that product is, I'm not going to go back to the product page, but you could set up a button up here if you're giving them the option to take them to the product page. That's probably the best location for that type, just so that they are forced to choose quantity, and you can make sure they're thinking about it. third option with the Buy Courses page, you're going to link to this page. So whatever the URL is for this page, you're probably going to want to link there, which can be a bit confusing on a course page. Normally we might have text that says something like, create a group that includes this course and others or something. Something to make it clear to the user if they're considering a group purchase that they have that flexible option where they can define their own group. Anyway, so we'd link straight to this page as an option. And then the fourth one, with a subscription, you will want to take them to the product page as well, so that again, they can choose the quantity for that. All right, now certainly there are nuances there, and I haven't covered completely everything, but that should get you pretty well started with the Uncanny LearnDash Groups plugin. And to fill in any gaps, definitely take a look at our knowledge base, because there are far more options that I didn't go into, and how to use the shortcodes and what attributes are available and items like that. But hopefully that provided a good start to help you get acclimatized and a bit more familiar with the Uncanny LearnDash Groups plugin. Thanks for watching.